Welcome to the video edition of The Fourth Curtain, featuring this week's interview. Catch the extended audio version with Alex and Aaron's commentary wherever you get your podcasts. On with the show.
Welcome to this week's Fourth Curtain, friends. Today, we are joined by a longtime compatriot. I was looking for the right word. Compatriot's the one I came up with. I came up with it, not the AI, but Christoph Hartmann. Hello, Christoph, VP of
Hi.
Amazon Games. I got to meet Christoph. This is going to date us. Last century, I think. it was in 99. I think that's when I came out to Munich. Visited you at the, I believe it was a Take-Two office there.
Yes, Take-Two office, yeah.
We're probably working on Myth 2, maybe?
Myth 2, and it was just about, we were basically interested in signing Halo because we saw it at E3, you ran around and yeah.
Yeah,
and,
so Christoph has had such a huge impact on games. Before we get to present day, I mean, I think you started off at BMG working on some of the early GTA games.
The CU one. I used to do that. Remember that? The CD club? Yeah.
Wait, did BMG have a CD club?
They did. It was like another arm of it, yeah.
A book club. Okay. They had a book club
too, yeah.
You could book club. Okay. See, that's how they started off. Bertelsmann, German company, and they originally were like a book club, then a CD club, and
it was great.
And then wanted to do games, but it wasn't their thing.
Well, sort of, almost maybe turned into their thing, I guess.
Yeah, maybe the biggest mistake because they sold GTA for almost nothing.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we'll need to get to that in a minute. So at BMG, then at Take-Two, running 2K games, where I just wrote down a few little games that you worked on, signed, helped bring to life things like NBA 2K, Civilization, it's a small one, Bioshock, it's another little one.
Yeah.
Maybe for the Borderlands. An incredible run.
Nice.
It's been at Amazon for, I think, 7 years now. And I know lots of games shipped and in the pipeline. I'm really looking forward to, and this is just another incredible list. Tomb Raider, the new James Bond game looks really awesome. I'm not sure what's happening with Lord of the Rings, but I think you guys might be working on Lord of the Rings as well.
Yes, we're also working on it, but it's a big game. It's you gotta get it right, and an MMO, that's not done overnight, as we all know.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. A little bit of intro to Christoph. Thank you for being here. So good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
How are you? Where are you?
I'm good. I'm right now in Munich. What happened? I spent probably nowadays 2/3 of my time in Europe and mainly in Munich, and the rest of the time in the US. So we're 2 months in the summer there. We still got our place in Marin County near San Francisco, and I go all 4 to 6 weeks over for meetings and checking in with people, and dual citizen by now, and kind of split in terms of our life.
It's fellow American.
It's a nice way, kind of like it. Yeah.
That sounds like a good mix. 4 to 6 weeks in the US. Yeah. If you're dual citizen, can you vote both places?
I can vote in both places. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. You're German then.
Yes, not only, but yes, I'm originally from Germany. I grew up in a little town called Rosenheim, which for Germans is the quintessential Bavarian town. It's like basically Sound of Music. It's halfway between Munich and Salzburg, mountains and lakes and castles.
Black Forest area.
And Lederhosen and the Black Forest is somewhere else. That's a different direction. Black Forest, I know it sounds very German, dog toys and weird stories and monsters running around, but it's somewhere else. It's about 20 minutes from the border to Austria where I grew up.
Oh, cool.
But I went early to the US. I played basketball when I was young and quite liked the US. Our coach was American, and he introduced me to the concept of positive thinking, which is not very common in Germany, Stark, culture. And, was basically about, was of a, when you throw a ball that, It's all about like, you're going to get it in you to believe it. Very, very American approach, which, as I said, it's very different from German culture. So I had a huge interest in the US and went on a high school exchange program, which was sponsored back then by the German and US government, and lived 1 year in upstate New York, little place called Malone. Half an hour from Montreal. I think it had snowed the entire year. And not totally what I expected, but I'm very familiar with US culture because I did probably one of the most important years for all American senior year in high school, which is kind of the year which is the foundation for everything else in life afterwards, it felt. So it's I love US culture. It always has been. It's somehow embedded in me. Well, have German roots, but I think that 1 year probably had a bigger impact on me than the other 20 years in the US because it was so early. I was so young, with American family, not a single word of German, and did the whole program, played American football, and literally the whole thing. Yeah,
nice.
Not right on.
Not very successful. They tried to explain it to me.
No. Hey, wait. I was just gonna say, Aaron, you and I. Let's guess what position Christoph was playing. I'm gonna say you were a ball carrier, halfback. Yeah, that's my guess.
I would say a safety, maybe. No. So no. Okay, so then defensive tackle.
Exactly, defensive tackle. You got it right. And you know why? I was a big, tall guy. More basketball player than football player. But was strong. But you know why? That my English wasn't that great when I got there, and also football a little bit like chess. I had no bloody clue what they talked about. They had those drawings and the only thing I knew is ever heard about was a blitzkrieg, and I'm pretty sure it was not the same thing. And they just gave up on me and said, you know what? You stand there, just get the guy with the ball. That's about all you have to do. I said, okay, that one I understand. But interestingly enough, I was also the kicker because anyone in Europe can kick a ball. I mean, we grow up. And so it actually was better than all the other ones on the team who literally tried to hit a ball and sometimes missed it. It's not, you give American, you give them a ball, they will immediately dribble it, even if it's a soccer ball. And, in Germany, they will kick it, whatever it is.
Yeah. That was one of my fantasies when I was young, was to be a kicker for a football team.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I grew up playing soccer because my mother was British, Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so amazing. So you came over here during high school.
At 17, turned 18 in the US. Big day for Germans. That's when you start to vote. That's when you're allowed to drink, at least in Germany. And
what year was that?
Very influential. 87, 88.
Okay, so
lots of good thing happening. First Guns N' Roses album came out. I still remember that. That back then I had a little tape and I brought it back to Germany, and no one has heard it yet. It was way before it got released, and everyone thought, oh my, it was one of those records. So you heard it for the first time, it's something special.
Yeah, like Skid Row, Motley Crue. You listen to that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was truthfully more into hip hop, but as I said, music it's very broad for me. So anything good I will listen to. But you heard it's different from that album was just fresher than many things you have heard before. And then the other big thing I brought back was snowboarding, because it's just there's Burton is from Lake Champlain, or from Burlington, which is near Lake Champlain, and Malone is on the other side, which is about an hour from Whiteface Mountain. And so I went skiing there, and I saw those people on those weird things coming down the mountain. And eventually, I borrowed one, and that's how I got into snowboarding. I brought it back to Germany, and everyone stared at me what the thing is. So
you can't use that thing here.
I was snowboarder zero. Yeah. Oh, it's true. There's many lifts didn't allow it. And there was the whole debate: do you get out of the lift with 1 foot in or 2 foot? And neither one worked well, because with 1 foot there wasn't a lot of balance. With 2, you also just fell flat on your face. So they decided to ban it, and was it was nice. It was kind of the first 10 years was really like a youth culture thing. It was not just a sport. It was really kind of 18 year, I'm a rebel, I'm different, I'm not skiing, wear baggy pants, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, sorry.
Music and
so many questions here. So how did you end up coming here? Growing up, were your parents you need to go see the world, let's send you to the US? Were you hey, this basketball thing is awesome. There's this thing. Can I go? How did that happen?
No, I always had that sense of freedom to do something special, to just see the world. I grew up in an area which is beautiful nature, but people, they're mountain people. They're very one-dimensional, and I know that they're nice people, but I can never live there, and I wanted to see the world, and that, I read about that. I mean, there was the interest for basketball, but then I saw there was the program they offered where the U.S. government, the German government worked together, and for every voting district, they exchanged one student and they pay for it. So I applied, and out of 30 people, after a million psychological tests, they took me. So that's why when I go, they pay for the. Don't ask me why, so anyway, I got it. So I went, and it's that's how it started off. And since then, I was having, I had a lot of American-based friends. I mean, through playing basketball, but where I grew up in Rosenheim, they actually had 2 military bases. Big ones. It was actually the biggest in Bad Aibling, it's called. It was where they had, huge white walls behind them were actually those raiders, and that's where they listened to the Russians. I met people who spoke like 5 languages fluently. They did nothing else than sitting 12 hours listening to the Sputnik flying up and down and what's going on. I was hanging out a lot with them because they were just fun guys. A lot of adventurous stuff. Some of them were Green Berets, so they could
cool.
They had a lot of freedom. They could go on rivers rafting. You normally weren't allowed. They could basically get away with everything. They could drive drunk. They could go rafting. They could, it was.
Any games?
So anyway,
are they playing video games with while they're doing satellites too?
It was early. It was 85, 86. They weren't. I'm sure they had games, so they probably were war based and not fun based.
Tactical war games.
Yeah, but anyway. That's how I
so
got into American culture, and then
you're an explorer. Like by growing up by nature, you had the wanderlust. You're like, hey, here's a chance. Okay, let's see the world.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. Were computers or technology or games in the house growing up, or did you how did you get exposed to how did you learn about there's this thing?
Yeah. So actually, the first time I got exposed to computer was in the US. They had computer classes, and given the degree didn't help me in Germany, so I kind of took all the classes I couldn't take, from literally typewriting, which was a thing still back then. It's good now because I'm probably the fastest writer on the keyboard ever.
Yeah.
Don't use the fingers, but did it and using, learn to program in BASIC. It's very basic, but it's the first time actually, really, I knew what it is, but used when I got into it, and they were like simple games, and we did them ourselves. But truthfully, the way I got into gaming is, as you have seen with all my records, I always have been a music guy. It was in the early 90s. I was DJing in Munich. Paid my way through business school there. Locally decently successful, good enough to pay for life in school, so that wasn't too bad.
The DJ
then
gig?
I went, by DJ, that was.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It paid well. Once you have a resident night, it paid 500-600 Deutschmark back then. It's pretty much the same, in euros now. So nowadays, probably $1,000 or so. When you take inflation, it's not bad. You make it once a week, and then occasionally get. It's. I did much better DJing than in my first job. Because as a student in Germany, you don't pay taxes. Everything is tax-free. As a student, every income is tax-free. So,
that's awesome.
Once I learned about taxes, I felt DJing sounded so much better. But yeah, anyway, so how did I get in games? So I did an internship at BMG Music, first in Spain, working for a guy called Tato, who actually produced a song you all have heard called Macarena, which, I'm going to tell you a secret, it's actually not an original song. I heard that song and saying, Tato, I know that song. That's like an old salsa song from Costa Rica, where I spent 9 months on the beach surfing and trying to figure out what to do with my life. He said, yeah, don't tell anyone. I said, yeah, but he said, that's the whole model. I go to South America, I give them 10 grand, I buy the rights to all the salsa songs, I get someone to create a dance, I, make it a little bit modern, and then put it on, to Spain on all those islands where all the tourists are, and eventually something sticks, and that's how we make money. I said, okay.
wow.
And then that year, it worked really well for him, and it was the whole model. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. And anyway, so worked in music and realized that there's no chance to make a career in music because all the seeds we really, do interesting jobs, sign up bands, they were taken by people who started in the 60s. They were too young to leave. And by the time they would be leaving, I was too old to be like really contemporary and have that. So I did. And Napster came in. I thought like, hey, that doesn't look good for the music industry, because I realized it's going to go all digital. And then they had that little gaming group, BMG Interactive. And as I said, it was first at BMG in Spain. I one evening I ran into a guy called Sam Hauser, which I'm sure you all have heard of. And he worked already for BMG Interactive, and he came to Spain because there was like some studio he visited. And it was kind of, I don't know, but love at first sight. I mean, we're also the youngest people in there, and when told concert together and said, hey, because I was still studying, said when you come to London next, just come over. And then so I went there, asked for an internship. They immediately took me because I have good references from Spain. And anyway, I at some point I fell in love with the industry. There were two reasons. The one was there was no future in music, really, and I always wanted to do entertainment. And the other is I knew it's going to be just the beginning. I knew I'm going to be part of something early on which is going to be special. And the thing which really made me interested in games is the PlayStation. Because, I don't know, but I think the PlayStation might have been the thing which in general opened it up to more like a mass market, because me and my friends, we had PlayStations often from getting home, DJing at 4 a.m. We played some games, and but it wasn't cool. It was like kind of, you still did it, not telling your cool fashion DJ friends about it. I kind of played it at home, but we thought it's like a lot of fun. It was perfect. Get home, I played, and that was my interest. And anyway, so I thought it's much better to swap. And they fired the marketing guy running Europe, and I said, okay, I can help out until you find someone new. And kind of has been the story of my life. I just, work hard and prove that I'm actually don't look for someone new, just take me. And that's what happened. They said, okay, we don't actually just take the young guy. Hey, he's probably cheap and he does an equally good job.
That's a great, that is a great life lesson. You work hard, you do a good job. And when you're young, that just opens up. So, it sounds so simple, but it opens up so many opportunities. This must have been like early 90s that.
Yeah, that was 95, 96.
95, 96, and Sam Hauser and his brother Dan are sort of the duo behind the modern GTA series. And so, were you there when it was still kind of, I guess, in DMA's hands with David Jones? Yeah. So that was GTA 1 and 2, and the transition to 3.
Yeah, that was one of the first games I did marketing on. What happened then? That the head of BMG Interactive for Germany, Austria, Switzerland, he got fired because he did something unacceptable to HR. Don't ask what it was. And I said, hey, you're the only German speaking here. Do you want to kind of same thing? Want to help out until we find someone? And I said, sure, go there and take care of it. And as usual, ended up doing the job for a while. That's how we met. It was probably at least 4 or 5 years. I did 4 years. And one of the first games. So the first game I ever worked on was called You Don't Know Czech. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that's a great game. That's a Chicago game too.
That's another Chicago studio.
Jellyvision, Chicago, and it was the European producer for all the localized versions. I basically started producing and marketing. And yes, I did all the marketing on GTA 1 for German-speaking region, but we were so small, so it was kind of, all working together. You're talking a group of 15 people. It's not like organization that was. I mean, you know what I mean. Like eventually, Sam had to say, but up to that, everyone had an opinion about everything. And that's how I got into games, and I'm blessed enough to have worked literally in the first GTA. I know when it was still DMA, when they did Lemmings before. I can tell you a lot of stories from the old days, but some of them better never told. I might get in trouble, but
but those are the good ones. Like, is there one good like story that would surprise people about the early days of GTA? Doesn't have to be like super juicy one, but a surprising one.
The juicy ones I wouldn't. I can tell you juicy ones what life was for a 25-year-old kid in a record company where they give you a credit card and never ask what you spend it on. There's a lot, but it's not related to gaming. It's more why the music industry went downhill. But no, I think, it's not juicy, but what it really was, Sam would always impress me because I was, could happen, could not happen, but we all were, I wouldn't say doubtful, that sounds negative, but we were like, is he right or not? But Sam, who did not, he was basically head of development. He actually did music videos before. I don't know if you know, but he was actually producer the music videos. A really famous one, Relight My Fire for Take That, and big boy band in Europe. And he always said people don't want to play those linear games anymore. They want to have open worlds. We're like, oh, sure, and he saw it. And looking back still, it was, one of those moments where someone was just like Mozart. He was just, ahead of it. It's not that he created the game, but he just, it doesn't matter. He saw it, he knows that's it, and he made it big and took it to where it is. And that's early on in like 96. And it was way, open world. Yeah. People laughed at us. People laughed at that approach of like you can do whatever you want in a game.
Right.
And one of the big moments in life in general of entertainment, having seen someone who actually thinks 5 steps ahead.
That's really it's really interesting because how does anybody know? I mean, it's conviction on a vision, and you try it, and either it works or it doesn't. It doesn't always work, but in that case, worked phenomenally well.
Yeah,
but that takes a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of courage, and also about then. BMG Interactive, BMG had no interest anymore in games, so they sold us to a company called Take-Two. They had a little publishing office in the UK, but didn't have anything in the rest of Europe, and mainly a distribution company in North America. I don't know. They sold us for like not a lot, maybe $1. I was basically just handing it over, but it was good. We were finally in a company just wanted to do games. It was not any more music company where literally the head of BMG in the UK called at the Christmas party, told everyone we got sold, and said we finally cut the cancer out of the company. And can you believe it?
Wow.
Years later, when he got fired, not that much later, when music went down, I remembered, that cancer did pretty well, like that tide really has turned, you should have not looked down on those young guys, that's really what makes the world move nowadays.
That's fascinating. So you end up at Take-Two, and then when 2K gets started, was that?
Yes. So that's
how did
what
it
happened
start?
there. Yeah. How did it start? It's so we I ran the German Central European office that where we also met in '99, and then me being very ambitious and permanently bitching and moaning that the marketing is not good enough. So they said, okay, we have enough of it. Why don't you do it yourself? So they promoted me to VP of marketing. It's another way of getting stuff, just doing what my wife does, just keep on nagging until someone gives up. And when I became VP of marketing for Europe, and we the titles, one of my first titles was Max Payne, which did great for us. And then shortly after, GTA 3 launched, so I did all the European marketing for GTA 3 and then for Vice City. And And so I was in Europe, and the company had money finally. We're like close to going out of business. You know how it often is, that story. GTA3 changed everything. The tide turned. We all of a sudden had money, more money than we should have. Investors saying, you spend it, build more business. And Rockstar was really focused on GTA. So Take-Two opened up a couple of labels. One was called Gotham Games. Then they bought Gathering of Developers. I don't know if you remember Mike Wilson's old shop, which we had a publishing relationship with. And at some point he sold it because there was just lots of fighting going on between the two groups. I mean, Take-Two and his group. And they tried to make them work, but they never really took off. There were multiple reasons for that. And one of them was truthfully also that Rockstar didn't really want to have that much internal competition. They didn't want to have, like other labels getting marketing money, getting and it's like, brothers sometimes don't want to have the younger brother getting too much attention. And then at some point, Ryan asked me saying, Christoph, you want to come to the US and manage like other businesses? And that job description was incredibly vague. And again, sometimes you have to jump into the cold water. And all I knew is like that job's going to change 15 times. But I knew one thing: they need business outside of Rockstar. That cannot be a one-trick pony. They need other businesses. And I, believing in myself, having a relationship with Sam and Ben and Terry, I thought, might as well give it a try, because I'm never going to get asked again to go to the US if I don't take them. So I went to the US, and the whole plan was, let's close. I was basically the guy running around saying, we keep that game, we close that studio, the Hatchet Man, not very well liked at the beginning, and kind of what then turned into my thing, kind of the turnaround guy, see what we're keeping, what we're doing, build some business. And in order to avoid the whole conflict politics, they placed me in Rockstar. I was SVP publishing in Rockstar. My office was right next to Sam. I was sitting with them because there was the personal trust. And the whole idea was, you do other games for us, but use Rockstar resources, marketing, QA, all those things. So we're not having any more that competition. And they were really, really incredible supportive. They really, really wanted it to work. But there was one problem, was called GTA San Andreas. And any attention went there. And I was, I got the rights for Civilization. I'm like, can someone test it? Can I have I had no one basically reporting to me in that publishing organization. Was always coming, please help me. And they wanted, but the sum of, so I went to Ryan Brand, who originally founded Take-Two, and said, Ryan, I know we really wanted to avoid it. That was the one thing we didn't want to do, but I'm telling you, the only way it's going to work is when we have a separate organization for those reasons. And then Ryan, who was really big mentor of Sam, and talked to him and got him on board. I think probably it's Ryan who really helped him to do all those things, being supportive, being me, that he said, okay, fine, do it. There was clear rules. For example, never do an open world game, never do anything which competes with GTA. You can use. That's why we started to do sports. That's why we looked into Civilization, all those things which clearly don't go in their direction. Then we went back into the old Take-Two offices, which were in Soho, right on the corner of Broadway and Prince Street, and started fresh over again. What helped me a lot is that Take-Two went through so much trouble back then, and Ryan, for some scandal of backdating option or whatever it was, this time had to step back from being CEO. So he turned into, he was still pulling strings in the back and this and that, but he turned into, basically Ryan and me then set up 2K. It was, he was head of development, I was head of publishing, and what was really good, because he could provide the protection that no one tries to, gives us breathing room so we can build it. And he also could help us to get funding, because he called it a bank. He was like, Christoph, let me walk over and go and talk to the bank, which was basically the board. They were all people he had hired at some point. So while he technically was, how it is, he was technically not like their boss, but it's like, enough emotional pressure to give us some money. And
this is like what you're describing is completely fascinating to me, because it, from the outside, you look at an organization like this and you think, oh, okay, they're doing great. They have this money. They're being really smart and shrewd in how they invest and all this. But in reality, it's all about these personal relationships and trust. And like leaning in with people who are going to lean in on what they're good at. And it's just fascinating to hear you describe how it all sort of came to be. Would never
Yeah, no, and I know sometimes it feels Goodfellas has been teaching me more than business school, like things and former lines and so on. No, but so we were looking for anything which is not competing with Rockstar. Then Sega Sports asked us, do you want to do a distribution deal? They had Greg Thomas doing fantastic sports game, great football game, basketball game, but they had small market share. We were a big distribution company. So Ryan, we said, yeah, sure, let's do the distribution deal. And then we said, okay, so what we're going to do now, because, there was EA Sports, that larger than life monster. And we said, let's just do the most old school thing you can do. Let's just use pricing. And we just cut the price in half for the football game. And my argument was, it's still, people still, it's officially, first of all, it was a better game, but it was a officially branded product. And if you cut the price in half, there will be people saying, I actually played the other one. It's, I saved myself like, I don't know, what was back then, $25, I think it was $50 was the price point. And it worked. We outsold EA, who, it was a great year. We picked the right guy on the front cover, Terrell Owens from Philadelphia, had a great season. And they got into panic mode. And they decided to get the football license exclusive. So we were out of that. So we went after baseball to get it exclusive, which was not fully exclusive because they still, had the Sony game, which they didn't want to let go. So we kind of really just had an Xbox and PC license. But that's how it all started. And Sega, doing financially not well, they asked us, do you want to buy the sports business? And then we said, sure, let's buy the sports business. And that's how it all started. And Ryan, I was really focusing on all the non-sports games because all the sports were really North American sports. And Ryan was like a huge baseball fan. Sports focused more on the sports stuff. And one day I remember I was, I had to travel very often to the West Coast to sit with Visual Concepts, Greg Thomas talking, development, basically saying should be a game on time, which they most of the time didn't, they shipped always a 90, but never on time. And I said it needs to be a 90 and on time. But so I was sitting on a morning in Sausalito having a coffee, nice view onto the bay. And then Ryan called me and I'm like, I knew something's up. And I said, what's up, Ryan? He said, yeah, Christoph, good luck. You can do it all now on your own. I said, what? He said, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm can't do it. And that was as short as it was. And I learned that it was like another trouble with backdating options and some stock, this and that. And his lawyer basically told me you have to step out of the company because, otherwise it's going to be a nightmare. And all of a sudden I was there and had the whole thing by myself, which it's not, some people who are very career driven saying, fantastic. I'm like, shit, what am I going to do now? It's like, and then David Ismail, who used to be our lawyer at that time. And, he was very, not your traditional lawyer, he was always very interested in business and how it all works and, thinking way further than just a contract. And then, I said, okay, David, let's do this together, and it worked out as a great relationship. He's kind of the detailed guy, organizing guy, and I'm more like the strategic. And, people compared us in the company sometimes like to Captain Kirk and Spock. And, the one being very rational, also not the most emotional person. I'm not Spock.
There you go. There's our Polk quote right there. I'm not Spock.
I'm not Spock.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's always, I think it's great to have a partner, for a lot of reasons. You can't be a master of everything. And just having somebody to talk to about stuff.
Yeah. Alex.
It is. I hardly think any business or bands or anything is ever built on just one person. It could be there's someone in the front, but they always have someone. But you need someone to talk to. You need someone you on the same level you can talk to, who shares, the same risks, same opportunities. It's just that human nature.
So I mean, the other a couple other sort of things that just came to mind in this era, in this time frame, BioShock and Borderlands, two kind of like original IPs that have become really big franchises now. They got their start while you were there. Did you have a sense that, I mean, I'm guessing, obviously, maybe not obviously, I don't know. I'm guessing you had a sense they were going to be successful because you signed them. But what was it about those games or the teams or whatever, like when you first saw them or introduced to the products that made you want to back them?
We'll be right back. If you like what you're hearing, like and follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. And now, a word from our sponsors. Great games aren't just made, they're crafted. Pixel by pixel, idea by idea. Amber doesn't just develop games, Amber forges the future of play, one project at a time. From the magic makers at Disney to the tech giants at Amazon and Warner Media, the biggest names in the industry trust Amber to turn their wildest ideas into reality. Why? Because the talented teams at Amber believe in pushing every boundary, breaking every mold, and having a bit of fun while they're at it. Need a partner who knows the game and plays to win? Amber has the talent, the passion, and a global network that's ready to roll. So let's skip the loading screen and get straight to the action. Discover how Amber can power up your next project at amberstudio.com. Do you want your game to live forever? To supercharge it with immense powers of endless content, a buzzing gamer community, immortality, and coin? CurseForge for Studios, an exclusive service for visionary game developers, allows you to add safe, cross-platform mods to your game and enjoy all the benefits of user-generated content without any of the risks. With CurseForge for Studios, you can harness the creativity of our 165,000 devoted creators and the traffic of 43 million monthly gamers. You can also level up with premium mods and grant your game new revenue streams. Trusted by AAA studios, CurseForge for Studios is an immortality potion for your game. Enter studios.curseforge.com and join the UGC era. Leveling up your game dev career but not sure where to start?
Or maybe you're trying to break into the industry, looking to connect with other people who are making games.
Consider joining the International Game Developers Association, the IGDA, the world's largest nonprofit member-driven professional association serving all individuals who create games.
I was in the IGDA in Chicago, met a lot of people, great way to network.
The IGDA exists to support and empower game developers around the world in achieving fulfilling and sustainable careers.
Discounts,
educational and advocacy-based resources,
mentorship,
and solidarity across 160 plus chapters.
To join the IGDA, visit igda.org/membership and use the code IGDA 4th Curtain 15, no spaces there,
to get 15% off 1- and 2-year memberships, as well as a student membership.
Joining the IGDA is a great move for your career, and as a nonprofit supporting everyone making games, it's a great move for the whole community. Join today. Hey listeners, it's Alex from the 4th Curtain.
And Darren here. We want to give a quick shout out to the team at High Vibe PR.
High Vibe PR is our boutique communications firm. They're all about companies and brands defining the future of gaming, entertainment, and culture.
Look, when you're doing something big, you need the right people to help you tell your story. And High Vibe PR, they're the best at making it happen.
Absolutely. They've helped us at Look North World level up our messaging, connect to the right audiences, and stay ahead of the curve in this ever-changing industry.
So, if you're looking for a PR partner who gets gaming and entertainment like no one else, check them out at highvibepr.com.
That's highvibepr.com. Go give them a look. You won't regret it.
And now, back to the show.
I in business development and in my approach to development, I feel always you can improve one thing in the next round of game, and there needs one model which worked for 2K well, which is really what happened on sports and also happened on BioShock, is someone there who's a creative superstar, but lacking a bit of discipline, lacking like real marketing support, and turning something from a game into a product. And, as horrible a product sounds, but eventually it needs to be a product to sell. And we know he did System Shock before. He was, incredible talented, also incredible difficult to work with, but that often goes hand in hand. And so really the decision to sign up was, he did System Shock. And if we help him, we can get from 1 million units to whatever, because they didn't have good marketing. The positioning wasn't great. So, they ran very quickly out of money, as Ryan predicted. He had a very good sense there, and then we bought them for not that expensive. And we work close together with all the being friends and love you and hate you at the same time, which also helps sometimes. I hired the head of creative from Ubisoft Montreal, Greg Roby, and he came over, and his job was basically to make the game better. And he worked a lot with Ken. And then we did the same when we had sports. It was Greg Thomas and me were like fighting so much you wouldn't believe it, because he had marketing, QA, everything reporting into him. And I said, he can't, they, marketing and development, it's not that they have to, they shouldn't fight, but they also can't be friends, because if you're in closing, you don't want to hear from them. And that's when they need it the most. So like, if you sit on top of them, the developer, you're always going to make marketing shut up. You're going to make QA shut up. There's no system of check and balance. And eventually he let go, and I separated QA out, I separate marketing out, in order to be disruptive on the marketing. I said, I cannot just keep on hiring the B-class people from EA Sports, because it's going to be the same except not as good. So I hired the head of marketing from Red Bull, because they did lots of disruptive marketing. I mean, Red Bull is, I think, the best really company ever doing disruptive marketing. And I said, let's go for someone who thinks outside. That was a good move, and that's kind of where it took off. And as you said, everything which looks strategic turns out to be like, just happening. And we for NBA 2K, we always, was always higher rated. We had 10% marketing share. And then what really happened is that the time, that's what I learned from Ryan, the time to establish a new IPs in the generation, when there's a new console coming in, that's when you can build new IP. Otherwise, people are so trained, habitual buyers, habitual players. That's when you can launch it, because those early adopters, they actually pay attention, look for something new. They're not just listening to a friend in the schoolyard or nowadays on TikTok. And so we threw everything behind the next generation of consoles, while EA really was focused on skimming and doing all the SKUs out there. And what happened is, we had a game much better. We were competing on even grounds. Everyone's starting fresh. And sometimes, and it's just the truth, sometimes you need some luck. But when you work hard, you also deserve it. NBA Live didn't ship. It just didn't ship. So we were the only one out there. And that's how we got people to play our game. And many saying, that's actually so much better. It always was better. They just didn't pay attention. And on top, often they said it's better, but all my friends play the other games. I want to play the other games with my friend, because different control scheme and so on. And that's the story behind NBA 2K. And once we had the leadership position, we just, went for it.
Yeah, well, it certainly helps when the competition doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Well, do you think, you said something really interesting, which makes a lot of sense, that a good time to try to establish new IP is when there's a new console, like a new generation. Everybody's starting an even playing field. What do you think happens? I hadn't thought about this before, but it sort of feels to me like maybe we're going to see fewer new generations of hardware, like the platforms are more about, I don't know what the platforms are going to be about 5 years from now, but if like software. Microsoft starts kind of getting distancing themselves from hardware and stuff, what's going to define sort of these generational, bookmarks, where we have chances to like reset almost, our player expectations for what's new.
So when you look at other entertainment industries, they always started booming when they had a technology shift. When you look movies, from movies without music and talking to like black and white to, we don't have to, up to Avatar and go all 3D. But every time then it peaked, And same on music. It went, from vinyl to Super 8, I think, in North America. Never was a thing in Europe. And then, you had CD and digital. And that's when people refreshed their library. That's when that industry was booming. That was one of the reasons I went into the gaming, because I knew we're going to have those moments many, 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 many times. That technology will enable you to be creative. And you're totally right. I think that the biggest challenge we have as gaming industry, regardless of what platform, I think the technology innovation is not going to be there anymore. It's all about being creative, having ideas, and you have seen, what have been the big disruptors? Have been Roblox, very different way of consuming games. And I think people still like the more traditional games. We also know they're very expensive to do, and I think the big disruptor is not going to be, platform. There will be another one, but how much better can it be? It's just going to be a bit fast. It's going to be like a car. There's a new 911 coming out. Sure, they tell you why it's better, but truthfully, it has 12.5 horsepower more. And that's really it. And truthfully, they're limited anyway, so not even in Germany can use it on the autobahn. And I think the biggest disruptor we're going to have is AI. And I'm not just saying because everyone's talking about it, but there's two things it will do for us. It will hopefully get us out of the dilemma that is incredibly expensive to make big games, incredibly risky. And with risk, when people have risk, they don't want to take, they don't want to do anything new because they can't take them. That's why we have the same old games, the same old ideas, because no one wants really to try something new. And if we learn again to get the cost of development down, but I think even more develop games faster, because you do a game in 5 years. The world changed a million times nowadays. Yeah. So whatever is the zeitgeist now, might be different in 12 or 24 months. You can't even keep up. So I think AI has to help us to make games faster. You try them out. If it doesn't work, you move on to the next thing, because that's the reality. That's how entertainment works. It's not all predictable. You go out and try it and do. And so it has to be on the development side, enabling us to deal with the cost problem and the speed problem. And then the other is also, I think AI will help us to change gameplay. There's many ways it can do. I think one thing, because what I'm toying around in my mind and trying, and also in development is really, it always has been up, to grow an industry. If you don't just want to compete, if you want to do the blue ocean and grow it, which we had in this industry for so long, and we were so spoiled because we could make many mistakes. We just kept on growing, so no one paid attention. And now you make mistakes and it really can hurt you. And I think there's a gamer out there, and I've observed it. I know we often do market research based on our kids, but new Spider-Man came out. My daughter and her friends were all into it due to the actor, and my son being in video games played Spider-Man. The girls came into my office, which is also the man cave here, and said, "Oh, can you teach us and show us to play Spider-Man?" And they played for 1 hour and then threw down the control. And I said, "What happened?" I said, "Yeah, it's getting too complicated. And I asked, did you enjoy the first hour?" They said, "It was great, but now I don't know what to do, and I have to do it over again." And I'm like, that was the moment for me. It's we have one problem. We design all our games which are easy to play, hard to master. We start off, train them, and then, but that's just one person and one type of personality. But I think AI can help us to make games easy to play and easy to master and still be AAA. Because when we in this industry talk casual, truthfully, we talk about shitty games. Can be honest, when we talk casual, it's equal to low budget production, isn't it? Does anyone talk about a casual $200 million game? No one does. Casual always means $10 million, throw it out there, and it's a piece of shit. That's really what it is. And then we talk about some target group which actually doesn't exist, where we all think we convert people who never play games into gamers, which also doesn't happen. And I think what happens if you do a Spider-Man, where AI helps you to guide you through the game, but in a much more clever way. So it's not just an easy mode. Right. It learns. AI learning from the game of what you're good in, what you're bad in, and basically just keeps it interesting. And basically, let's see, the guy has struggles and has to go back, and it basically learns when you churn out and basically lets you pass. So the game is basically adapted to your strengths and playing behavior. By the way, for stuff like League, where none of the kids nowadays become League players because it's highly toxic, hard to learn, everyone yells at you. For complex live service games, it could be a great way to use AI to train someone up until he's ready. Because just playing a game, making it easy, that's not it. I mean, we all have the different settings for racing games you can put, but that's not good enough. I think because everyone has different skills, and I think where AI can help us to make more custom games for the playing experience and because ask around, I'm sure you have some friends who say, I would like to try out that game, but it's the entry of barrier learning. It's games
100%.
are very time consuming, and no one wants to go through the learning games, especially at a time where everything's moving in lightning speed.
I think that's fascinating. It's the first time I've kind of heard sort of the AI pitch that way, and I think it's super smart. And I've often thought that the way our industry has developed has been kind of weird as far as the value proposition is concerned. Like the cost per hour of entertainment is the lowest in any form of entertainment ever.
Yep.
Yet there's this expectation that we have to deliver 100 hours of entertainment with a product, which is ridiculous compared to every other entertainment medium ever. It's like, why is there this so what you're talking about very much resonates with me. That things don't need to be so complex to be a lot of fun.
And the other thing which can be disruptive, and we will see, I think, will be streaming, because it will help you. One barrier of entrance is the financial investment. You have to get a console, which even, end of the life cycle gets cheaper, but there's still money. And you have to get the games, and if it's streaming, it's going to be probably existing on something you already have, your PC or, like your TV or your mobile phone, or a combination of those. So the entry of barrier in financial investment goes down, which I think is very important as well to find new gamers, because I think us competing for the same old aging target group, that's not going to work.
We're all going to die eventually.
Don't go dark.
No, it is, and also going in and saying, hey, let's do the next Minecraft and Roblox. They're generational games. They just happen. I'm sure there's the next Minecraft happening somewhere.
Have you all seen the
not going to be
rendering?
us finding it.
Have you seen the rendering stuff with AI where it takes like really bad graphics and then it renders it and it looks amazing? So it's like this really low. I think that's going to be something too, like this high, like rendering engines that are using AI.
Yeah, there's so many things you can do already for concept art. And by the way, everyone is so concerned that shops will go away due to AI. And I think it will just change. It's like, the Steam engine, it's people who were, down in a hole shoveling coal on their back up, they had a steam engine getting it up. Sure, their job maybe went away, but, it was enough people fixing that steam engine and putting wood in there and coal in there to make it work. And I think creativity is going to become even more important, because I tell everyone who tells me about it, why don't you go to ChatGPT and make it design something cool, like your birthday invite, and you put in the style you want to have. I want to have 16 themes. That's the 5 words and this and that. You know how long it takes until you get a result you really like. So it's not that fast, and it's all down to taste. It's the only thing it takes away. It's the work. But now you get 50 different things. Before I give a concept artist an idea, it takes him a month. He comes back with 2. Now I put something in, it goes overnight and get 50. But it's like the fashion industry. Have you seen how a photographer works? He puts if you don't have the eye for it, that he puts 50 shots on the wall. They look to someone like us completely the same, and someone who lives in that fashion magazine world is saying that's the one. And that's what's going to happen. An artist is going to be about taste. It's not going to be about your
totally agree.
It's not going to go away. It's just going to change.
That's a great way to say it. Yeah. AIs have no taste,
and will never have.
How did you get to Amazon? So you have this phenomenal run at 2K. Now you've been at Amazon for 7. How did Jeff Bezos call you? It's a Christoph.
No, I wish he would, but he was very much in favor. I mean, I made it all the way up to Andy Jassy, who reached out. He's now CEO, and Games used to report into AWS, and he was was great. And the reason why first of all, I went through semi-midlife crisis because we were, had done a couple of Borderlands, BioShock, every year NBA 2K, Civilization, and I felt okay. I'm like, in my later 40s, and that's it. There was, when I talked to the parent company Take-Two and had all those ideas for new games and how things change, and me believing that live service becoming more and more important, there was like a game we did called Evolve. I don't know if you remember, with Turtle Rock. It won. I think it was the only game which ever won Best of Show at E3 and Gamescom, which normally is the same thing, and we put it out, and it did okay, but it was really kind of something which should have been a live service game. And then we moved over to live service, and those things have to grow over time. And it did really well the first weekend, and then the second weekend didn't do as well. And Take-Two was just scared. I'm saying, guys, we have to let it run for 2 years. The same like with the game we did with Randy, Battleborn, same thing. The parent company Take-Two and Strauss, the Evolution, forgive me, it's not meant in a negative way, but they didn't, the company was established, made lots of money. They didn't want to go and have a game. They just said, Christoph, the server cost for 2 years is that much. I'm like, but if it works, the server cost doesn't matter. And I felt that we're not aligned anymore. I wanted to do new things. I was depressive of like, I'm not just going to keep on doing Borderlands the same old until I'm 60 and retire, and really believing that every game will be live service or will have a live service component eventually. I figured Amazon, I said, they called me a couple of times. I said it was no. But thinking it through, reading about it, Jeff saying in interviews, we think long term, if it doesn't work, we keep on going. And obviously having AWS, where I thought they pretty much well set up for any live service game. Having, big wallets, thinking long term, having infrastructure, being tech savvy felt like, and being at the beginning where it felt like that 2K moment, like, and I'm really more like the founder taking it from 1 to 2 person, not the one to squeeze 5% out of the top. I felt it's worth a try. And they have been good and bad. I mean, I realized that thinking long term means for them a year, because what they do is they do new feature for AWS, and if it doesn't work with 12 people, they go to the next one. They obviously, if I said it's 200 people and thinking long-term is 10 years, they literally stared at me out of my mind. They said, we built Amazon in 10 years. I'm like, that's right. I know it doesn't help me anything, it's not going to go any faster. It is what it is. And that's how it got to Amazon. But I learned a lot. I have to tell you, it's amazing when I think we have more than 1 million something employees.
What?
Just to manage that.
Wow.
Look it up. I think it's 1 million. I mean, there's obviously lots of warehouses, isn't it? But still,
that's a lot.
The revenue, I think, when you look at the revenue Amazon is doing, I think it's probably the 20th largest country in the world. And just how to manage that, it's impressive, and it's, we're soon out of time. I could go another hour, but what's great there.
Just, to be sensitive on time. Do you have a stop right now?
I'm good. I didn't book any other meetings. I thought maybe we're running late. So,
well, I am curious because when Microsoft bought Bungie, I end up at Microsoft, which has its own culture. And at the time, very focused on, Ed was very focused on launching Xbox. So that was very different from when I was at Disney, a much more well-established entertainment company. Also very different from when I was at EA. It was very much a video game company. So I'm kind of curious, going from Take-Two, which I know a little bit about the culture at Take-Two, and you described it for us, over to Amazon, which seems like if there's like a one of those evolutionary charts or whatever, diaspora charts of different taxonomies of companies, that Take-Two would be in one part of the chart, Amazon would be in a different one. That's my guess from the outside, culture-wise. Like, it's how different is Amazon as a culture to work in?
Going back to where I started off with Spock and Captain Kirk, ending up at Amazon, I just ended up with Spocks. Like, the entire company, it's just Spocks. I have never met a place with so many smart people. I mean, their hiring is intense. The way they hire, they're really looking for the best. I've never met that many sharp and smart people. in my life, but they're just logical. So once you throw a psychological argument in there about human behavior, they're like stare at you, but that's not, that's not binary. I'm like, yeah, not most of the decisions are not binary for humans. They think they're thinking logic and they're thinking with their hearts and not with their brain. Well, most of it. But they will, yeah, it's a huge cultural shock, and it has its good and its bad. I mean, you sit in a room, they get it in a nanosecond. They really, really, but you also have to explain every way. They get what you explain, but then you have to explain the next step, the next step, the next step, the next step, and that's different. Where in the traditional gaming company entertainment, where you have a lot of impulsive people, and you have to manage much more the emotions and the characters and all that, which is sometimes painful, went away in Amazon. But then it starts in that I felt every meeting is kind of like educational, meeting where I'm giving lectures on how that works and, entertainment in general and so on. So, there's always good and bad, and the grass is never green on the other side.
That's fascinating. You show up, as Captain Kirk, and now you've got your own ship over in the Federation of Amazon. Are you trying to like move your crew of Spocks to be more like Kirk, or are you trying to figure out how your style becomes, works within this logical framework, or both?
Yes,
I don't know.
So what I think is what I'm always aiming for is to get the best out of both. First of all, have a mutual understanding about our strengths and weaknesses. And rather than trying to make Captain Kirk Spock and Spock Captain Kirk, which just never works and doesn't play to the strengths, is see how can we combine them? How can we? And that's what I meant. I learned so much. How can they learn from me? And how can I learn from them, and then hopefully lead us to something which is very special? And it's still work in progress. At 6 years now, it's not. Also, I have big companies, so I have 3 bosses in the time. So you start all over again every time you have someone new coming in, and so on. But it works. I think they know that I'm different. I'm fairly senior employee there in the food chain, and I think I know that they probably behind my back like whoa, that guy is slightly different, doesn't fit the profile. But it's also respectful because I don't fit the profile. And
Right.
They know I can do something they can't do. It's not just about games making, it's just thinking differently. And I think and I have mutual respect for that as well. And I think, it's as I said, it's working process, it's ongoing. I wouldn't say daily battle, but it's definitely something I'm, have to work through. And people always took bets. So how long will they said either he's going to leave really fast or he's going to get Amazonized and basically stop thinking and behaving, do the document writing, all this and that. I always said, guys, they're going to Hartmanize them. They're not going to Amazonize me, like they Hartmanized them, which didn't work really either. I have to say that just many of them, they outnumbered me by about 1 million. But
by 1 million.
You're still going strong now.
I have a weird question for you. Do y'all still do the thing where every meeting everybody has to read the the documents? That's such
every meeting is an hour.
Thing.
There's doc writing and it has to be written a certain way. It even tells you which font you have to use in the line, and it's very, very structured. You actually have to take a course at the beginning how to write it, and that's where I started off. I never took that course, and I said, okay, if I don't take the course, I'm not allowed to write. Great, I'm not going to write anything. So I don't mind writing a page with bullet points, but I'm literally in my heart where I feel like little punk, always questioning everything and everyone. I would sell my soul telling me someone how to write something in a certain form. I would just think I would just give up who I am. I don't mind writing. I like writing when it's funny. I understand it's a great tool. But I also discovered the beauty about it. You know what it does? It takes politics out of it, because you know how people in presentation with PowerPoint very quickly wing. They look at the boss and they see a response or think they see a response, and then adapt the whole pitch to it, and doesn't do anything. And once it's written, it's there. It's like black and white. You really got to think. You really got to think about what you say. So there's definitely some beauty to it. And as usual, it can get out of control. I mean, there's some buzzwords where I get the chills when everyone reads. And then the first thing is they say crisp writing. I'm like, great, we can compliment each other on the writing, but that's actually not what we're getting paid for. It's like, it's about the content. And I mean, they go into the content, but as everything, it's just it is part of the culture. So everyone tries to shine, and I feel. But yes, they still do it, and they will always do it. It's a big part of the culture. And as I said, it's something I probably would recommend many companies to do. I would just not do it as excessive and box them. I let everyone write in lengths and, how they want to write it. Don't try to form it into a way, but making people put down their thoughts so they cannot just wing it in the meeting. I think it's actually a good thing. And that goes back to what I said, where we're probably learning from both. And there was a time I talked with Andy when he was still running AWS, and Andy, the writing kills me. We have to do quarterly reports, meetings move. The games industry moving so fast. I can't even keep up with the writing. I'm basically keep on updating the same document. And he said, fine, okay, then we skip it. It was very flexible. And I know, when we had the first meeting with me not writing again, he said, so Christoph, with a smile, how are we going to do this? I said, I have something, but it's just one page. I think it's good to have a structure. It just doesn't need to be like the same format. And that's what I mean about learning from each other, I understand and see the beauty. There's really a lot to it. You're very thoughtful. You have to think very deep. You have to really think through. There's no politics in there. But, as everything, you can get obsessive. I think not every meeting needs to have a document.
Yeah.
And the other does for them, I'm going to be quiet, is because people, the real Amazonians, they call them the very fungible managers. As I said, they pick super smart people. And when you look around, they're a long time at that company, but they move from department to department. So you could do music one day, and the next day you do like advertising, next day you do shopping. And that only works if you have an expert writing a doc for you, which you then process fast. So, that's also one of the reasons, because they want, which comes from the engineering side, where they want to have fungible engineers like Google also has, so you can move them around, apply them. That's really also what they do on the management side, where they want to have super smart people who very quickly learn. And the writing obviously helps, because they very quickly, and within 6 pages, can learn something which might take them 2 months. Lots of conversations.
That's also completely fascinating to me. Do you think, this is I'm kind of curious what your answer to the following question is. If some other interesting part of Amazon was to be like, hey, Christoph, we need some help over here, and perhaps you have gotten the games business really humming at this point, would you consider it, like, not in games? Like, I mean, I know you talked about your early career. A lot of that, the development of that early career was basically you being open to saying yes to some things. Having been at Amazon now for a little bit, and it's a pretty unique company, and I kind of asked because of my experience at Disney. Would you consider doing something outside of games at a company like that?
Yes, but it's very limited. It has to be entertainment, and it has to deal with the content. So, for example, we got Amazon Music, but it's mainly a distribution platform. It doesn't have an A&R department. It doesn't, pick artists. So that's the part I like about music. So if they would decide, like, hey, let's do Amazon Music label, I would very be interested in doing that. And the other one is obviously what they do on Prime Video, but again, on the content side. That's the two areas I could see myself, and I actually talk to both of them a lot, especially Prime Video. But but I would never go and do it. I'm not the right person. I'm very impulsive, I'm very emotional. It's a good part about me. I can energize, inspire people, and I like entertainment in any form. It's just me. I never wanted to do something else. And that, I think, is really also what makes me my strengths and fairly unique, is that I kind of live and breathe entertainment in any form, but have enough business sense to understand like how it all works. And, often it's where you get the business guy and the creative guy. And I feel I'm like that bridge in between. It gets both enough to make it work. I'm not going to be the one to squeeze out the last 3%, because truthfully, I don't care enough about it. But, I understand the creatives enough, and especially respect them. And I think that it's very important that they feel respected, because they're the superstars. And you have to listen.
Take notes,
you let them figure out things by it. Exactly. And that's,
That's awesome. All right, Christoph, we've kept you a little long.
Fine.
Super appreciate you joining us. What an incredible story.
Yeah.
And your background is, I think, double plus interesting, because you don't follow necessarily that typical path of, I was like I was teaching myself how to code when I was like 7 or, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of made your way with this, how you just, I think what you just described as a superpower, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Having a good understanding of both the left and the right side of the brain. Love it.
Cool.
All right.
Great.
Well, thank
Nice
you,
meeting
and
Christoph. Thanks for coming on.
good luck with the future slate. I think I read, is the next thing coming out the James Bond game in March?
That's coming out in March. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the next thing coming out. It's in March, and then we actually have a game coming beginning of October called King of Meat. It's done with a developer in the UK, Glowmate. It's a lot of the members from Little Big Planet.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a kind of, you have to remember King of Meat is like a dungeon scroll. It's very funny, for people running down. It also has, you can create your own characters, your own dungeon. It's a lot of fun. We're working also with Mr. Beast, who will do like something big on it. It's coming early October. And, it's one of those games where it's something fresh. It's something different. Everyone loves it when they play it, and if someone asks you can't explain it, why? Because it doesn't fit in a genre. I mean, that would a topic we talk another half an hour about. What do you do? On one side, people press, everyone wants something new, but then you have something new, no one wants to understand it because it doesn't fit. So is it now a shooter, or is it this, or is it that? It's like, no, it's something, and like if you can't give the pitch in 20 seconds, then they're like, let's move on. And that's made it so hard nowadays also for innovation. It's really with the media being really TikTok and Instagram and like the social media being really nowadays the real marketing machine and not the magazines or websites anymore. How do you market to people? We could talk another hour about it. I'm actually curious what you think. I don't know yet where it's all going, but it is what it is. We got to figure it out.
Yep. Yeah, that is a whole topic. Also trying to figure that out. In another part of, we're in that other part of the market where it almost behaves like a social platform, on Roblox and Fortnite and things like that. So it is interesting times for sure. All right, Christoph, thanks again.
Perfect.
Best of luck with the upcoming launch and the new games, and we'll see you around.
See you, Christoph.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Pleasure talking. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fourth Curtain Podcast. Visit us at thefourthcurtain.com to find our monthly newsletter and support the show via Patreon. The Fourth Curtain Podcast is a production of Fourth Curtain Media. Lovingly edited by Bryen Hensley of Noise Floor Sound Solutions. Video production by Sarkis Grigorian. Production support by Kimya Taheri. With community management by Doug Zartman and art production by Paul Russell. Thanks again for listening.